And welcome to your first day of asynchronous learning, or for some of you it's going to be your second, but for some of you it will be your first. I'm going to quickly go over, and this is Adele's cod squash, I'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to go over your assignment today and what you're going to be doing to maybe either further your understanding of why your study sites that you set up yesterday on Tuesdays are important, or for some of you, you also will have done that on Thursday. So here's the assignment. It's really focused on interdependent relationships. So thinking about how human systems and natural systems intersect and how we can start thinking about that in terms of land use and conservation and sustainability and ecosystem services. All things that we'll be talking about throughout the semester as it applies to biological systems, human systems, and then sustainability. I've given you some key words or ideas that I think might be useful for you to think about your learning today. So ecosystem services are basically things that ecosystems provide to humans for free, like water filtration, clean air, shelter, food, and more. Biodiversity is a really key measurement of thinking about ecological, biological, and organismal health and diversity. So if I told you that you needed to eat a banana for the rest of your life every single day, that's not a very diverse diet, and it's going to be pretty hard if a plague takes out all of the bananas in the world that's currently happening. You might not particularly like bananas. You might have a dietary preference that doesn't allow you to have bananas. So when we add in other foods like delicata squash or avocados, I have some apples in the refrigerator, suddenly you have a more resilient ecosystem. So whether it's thinking about the different types of habitats or the different types of organisms, or with even in an organism, the different types of genetic diversity, we generally say that things that are more diverse are better. Now, those different aspects are really applied to human systems when we talk about how we value things. So there's two types of valuation that humans sort of assign to ecosystems and biodiversity. The first, which is pretty straightforward, is monetary value. So we can look at a maple tree and say that that maple tree might produce $500 of syrup per sugar season. Or we could look at that maple tree and say that maple tree helps encourage 500,000 people to come to Vermont every fall to see the foliage. And that's worth maybe $150 million in revenue. We could also look at that maple tree and see a bunch of hardwood for timber that might be worth a couple $1,000s. So there's a lot of monetary values that we can assign to an ecosystem that's either going to promote its utilization or possibly its conservation. We're not going to cut that tree down. The other type of valuation that we generally use in thinking about ecosystems and biodiversity and their conservation is non-monetary value. Things that just have intrinsic value that really can't be priced, such as a really pretty sunset or the emotional well-being that you might get from being outside. Those things that you just really couldn't put a price tag on, but offer a lot of value to humans. So those are two things to think about. So what are you going to be doing? I've provided 3 different case studies, 3 short readings about money-growing trees, Vermont's future in terms of forest and timber industries, and then how we're using conservation to promote recreation within mountain biking. Each of these should take you about 5 minutes to read. You don't need to become experts in them, but you do want to take a look at them, and you're going to be doing part of your work with it. Now, each of you are going to be creating a whiteboard on this really cool resource called Jamboards. And here's 3 things you're going to be doing. And each of you gets your own Jamboard. So if you see someone that's already started one, you can scroll down and find a blank one. There is a section, the first section is for period 1, and then around slide 11, we start period 3. So, first thing you're going to do, sort of just a brainstorm activity. I want you to think about the things in Vermont, the ecosystems, the habitats, the things that you think provide some non-monetary values, some things that have monetary value in your life. So, for example, I'm thinking about my own preferences and my own lifestyle and the things that I enjoy. I'm probably going to put in terms of monetary value, skiing, right? I like to ski, and there's a whole lot of money in the ski industry that not only helps Vermont be a reasonably robust economic state despite being the smallest population in the country, but also it helps promote things like Mount Mansfield from not being overly developed. Now, in terms of non-monetary value, one thing that I absolutely love in Vermont is just taking photos of sunsets in the mountains. So sunsets and mountains are something that I can't put a price tag on, but I look outside and I see the amazing mountains and all of the clean forests and the pretty sunset, and that provides me a lot of joy. Now, after you brainstorm a list of either of these, I want you to put a number next to each of the things. And the numbers are for all of the groups. So you're going to put a 1 next to the thing that you think is the most important, and so on and so forth until you get to the last one. You're then going to reflect a little bit about that activity that you did, and you're going to write a quick, short, few-sentence personal statement as to whether or not you think Vermont, as a state, as a government, as a population, as a society, should focus more on promoting monetary or non-monetary development, so uses of, promotion of, and conservation of our ecosystems. Try and justify your explanation. We'll be talking about it in class. The last thing, you're going to read the 3 case studies, again, 5 minutes each, roughly, and I want you to extract a few things out of it. You're going to list 1 interesting fact, whether you think this example promotes monetary or non-monetary values in terms of the use and conservation of the land, who benefits from the use or the activity that we're doing with this case study, and what's 1 concern that you have. For each of these, I'm just looking for keywords. You don't have to write a paragraph, so please be concise. Specific, concise, detailed. That's what I'm looking for. The last thing you get to do is, and this is going to be a little tricky because some of you might do this earlier or later, is I want you to post a sticky note on someone else's board that's finished, and I want you to ask them a question. Maybe it's about their values, their statement, their concerns. So maybe I could say, hey, Billy Bob, we don't have a Billy Bob in our class. Why are you concerned about all the mountain bikers? You can post that on their whiteboard. Please be respectful and positive with your question, and make sure that you really respect the shared document. Email me if you have any questions. See you in class next time.